Today's episode is brought to you by Dive Comps.
It's high noon.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to High Noon Podcast, the competitive Overwatch podcast. I am your host, Blevins. With me, as always, is Deathblow. What's up, buddy?
Not too much, my man. Just another week of Overwatch League. The debut of Echoes in the books as well. It was a really fun weekend overall.
Yeah.
Hope you guys got the chance to check it out. If not, though, we'll be going through the matches today and previewing next week as well. And a lot of news to cover today.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, Death. I actually took a little bit of a hiatus from the news, but I will say, I've been waiting for this. I finally, Death, got my Sinatra jersey in. I'm just so pumped. It's the new season jersey. It's my Sinatra. Wait, I just looked at. Oh, God. Okay. I'm kidding. I didn't buy a Sinatra jersey. We'll be talking about this in just a bit. But of course, let's go through a bit of housekeeping first. Of course, huge special thanks to Bungee Bamboo, our executive producer. You can check out what they did for us for executive producer over at patreon.com/high noon podcast. I did, like I said last time, and I actually followed through, Death. I did update some of the tiers over at patreon.com/high noon podcast. Got a couple extra tiers. One is for a mailbag. You can get questions directly to us. I said you can pretty much ask anything, but if you ask something we can't say on stream, it's not gonna happen. So
same goes with everything, with all the rewards.
I put it in there. I put it in there.
Say anything, yeah, it's gotta be streamed.
Yeah, you guys know we keep the show pretty PG-13, so keep it within that. But we'll be doing a mailbag with all of the Patreon questions on one of the episodes a month. So check that out if you would like. And then we also we mentioned a little bit last week, we've got a VOD review tier as well. So if you want us to review you playing the pole position arcade game from the late 80s, I'm sure we'll have some interesting commentary for that. But you can keep it out. You can keep it Overwatch themed. You can go outside of that again if it's.
That's a really good point. No matter what, we can just view it as like on the spot, random game casting trials.
True.
If we really have no idea what we're talking about, that'll be fun in its own right.
Yeah. So check those out again. Patreon.com/high noon podcast. Blackwatch Report, of course, is always still going. Check them out. I'm sure they will be covering the Fran tournament that's been going on and everything in tier, because that's like the biggest tier 2 event going on right now.
It is they really put out some announcements. There was a message put out from our commissioner and from the league as a whole.
Yeah.
That really laid out that they wanted to make some changes to Overwatch League as well as the tier 2 scene, and part of that was going to be those community tournaments. So if you do want to support tier 2, that is easily the best way you can do that at the moment, I think, is to make sure you're watching those community driven tournaments and enjoying those to their fullest. And those are a lot of fun for a lot of the fans of tier 2. And some of them in the past, like the Echo one, even had some Overwatch League players in them. That won't be the case for this one, I don't think, but at least not that I've seen. I'm pretty sure they're busy. But it's something that's been a lot of fun to just kind of mix some teams up a little bit, bring in some content creators into the mix a little bit. Just makes for a really fun environment and tournament atmosphere. So
absolutely. And the place that you can catch all of that, of course, Blackwatch Report. Make sure you're following them. They are on their own iTunes feed, so check them out, and check them out on Twitch as well. Thorn and Kyle holding down the fort for tier 2. But let's move on, Death, and talk about what we did this week. And we can start off where both of us were actually casting an event this past week.
Yeah, casted a TFT tournament. It was a lot of fun. I got to open the event with Kenobi, a tier 2 caster. You got to finish the event with Bupasaurus, another tier 2 caster.
Yep.
So there was a very heavy Overwatch presence in the TFT.
One might say 100% Overwatch
in that particular event. Goa even does some TFT casting as well. So if you're missing him, you can check out some of that content as well. But yeah, it was a whole lot of fun. I personally, in the games I was casting, got probably the most iconic like BM pop off esports.
Oh, it was great.
BM moment that the game has seen, at least since I've been watching.
Definitely the most. I don't know if I would call it BM. Okay, no, it was definitely BM.
It was a mic.
It was literally a mic drop moment.
Yeah, it was great. You can check my Twitter for that. I put a clip up of that if you're just at all interested. Even if you don't follow the game, I think you'll appreciate what happened there nonetheless. But yeah, a whole lot of fun. So big thanks to the TO there, Bemi, for the invites to cast that event. Hope to do some more of those in the future.
Yeah, it was a super fun event to be able to do that. And casting TFT is always fun. I casted a little bit of Legends of Runeterra on Sunday. I had a creator event challenge thing with that game as well. So very busy weekend for me. But just, super fun creating content and all that good stuff. Actually streaming games instead of just podcasts. Weird. Haven't done that in a while. That's always fun to do. But yeah, enough about me. Let's move on and get to the elephant in the room.
It's news.
Well, let's just start off with the big one, Death, as alluded to before. Sinatra, the golden boy, but not actually golden boy, of Overwatch League on Jimmy Fallon, America's sweetheart, the face of the Overwatch League. Sinatra has retired from Overwatch.
Yeah, definitely big news. Obviously, we saw some, tier 2 players kind of moving, and we speculated and wondered, would this happen in Overwatch League itself? And, the game has always had, a really fast pace. The league has always been really daunting and faced with problems of burnout, things like that. And, we saw some of that kind of rear its head earlier in the year with some other retirements. Even they specifically stated not going to play Valorant, just wanted to
Swimmer,
leave.
Right?
What's that?
I think that was Swimmer.
Swimmer and also Hip.
Yeah,
was another one. But this one very specifically, I mean, Sinatra is already on a Valorant team. He very explicitly quit to go play that game. And there's been a lot of talk about the two games kind of being tied together, and that's really died down, since the game
since people played it,
came out, and people were able to play it and realize, oh wait, this isn't remotely like Overwatch. And it's really not. As far as games where you pick up guns and shoot at other people and it's team based, they couldn't be much more different, right? Outside of those descriptions. So to me, this is a very curious retirement. Start out the conversation as we have in the past and go, there's no ill will, or I hope everything I'm about to say is wrong, and that Sinatra finds success, pops off, and is great in Valorant. I just don't personally see it happening. The numbers are just stacked against him, Blevins. There's very, very few esports pros that have transitioned to another game and remained at the top of their scene.
I think the only exceptions, depending on how you classify it. I mean, card games, I don't know if you necessarily would count as esports.
I don't. Not for this. I don't think
not for this. So, but the card game pros, it's like this. Like Stan Sifka will be one of the best players in whatever game. Doesn't matter. And the other one is FGC. But like, is Street Fighter different? Is Street Fighter 4 different than Street Fighter 5? Is that different than Samurai Showdown? Is that different than Mortal Kombat? I think if you get into the weeds of it, it is. But there's still a lot of the same, like Sonic Fox and like a lot of those same people are at the top. But overall, I agree with the sentiment. Just wanted to point out that caveat. I think those two are the notable exceptions.
And listen, I mean, obviously both of them are first-person shooters. They're very aim-centric, especially the position Sinatra played in Overwatch was very, very aim-centric as well. Not all of them are. But you don't see major crossover, right? There weren't players jumping back and forth between CSGO and Overwatch in the past. You know, maybe at the beginning, some people tried to move. I don't know that a single one of them succeeded. And it doesn't mean Sinatra won't be able to make the transition the other way. But to me, it boils down to this, Blevins. There's a reason Michael Jordan waited until he'd won 6 titles and was washed up to decide to join the Chicago White Sox and play baseball.
Yeah.
And that's because it just
Chicago
didn't
White Sox
make
farm
sense.
team, by the way.
Right. It just didn't make sense for him to do so while he was at the top of his game. And that is really what I think the Sinatra issue falls under here. And it's a very even more ironic situation. And maybe now that Sinatra will have a legend in Overwatch that he wouldn't have had if he'd stayed, right? Because now people get to say, well, what if he just never left? He would have won 7 MVP titles and the Shock would have won in. And there will always be that what if, and people will always be able to say that. So he did create on his way out the door just this mystique that will follow him forever, right? But if it follows him to a mediocre, middling, successful career in Valorant where he doesn't actually accomplish anything, I think it's going to be really taxing on him and wear on him as a player and as an online personality. So it's going to be really curious, but it's funny when you look at it, you know, on paper, at least, I will put that caveat on it, but on paper, taking Sinatra off the stage for the San Francisco Shock means somebody else comes in on DPS, right? And almost across the board, I think that makes them stronger on paper, right? To put in this, it's not even a knock on Sinatra, right? That team is stacked with DPS talent. You've got Rascal, the flex god, who can pick up a new hero, as he did this weekend, just picked up Echo and dominated with it, right? I think that's been known to happen. He did it with Baptiste, which is a healer and not even in his role, right? Like he's just known for that. You've got Striker, who has a pretty 1-for-1 like hero pool overlap with Sinatra, and was thought to be the best in the league at his roles when they were on separate teams and played separately. So I know, and I've heard, and I'm not ignoring the fact that there is all this talk about what a leader Sinatra is, and that's why Krusty liked him, because he was vocal and he could take over a game, and there is a mental aspect to it. And I can't sit here and tell you definitively that I think the Shock are going to be better in actuality with this retirement, because that's real in a team environment, right? That's a very real aspect to it. But on paper, you're just going to be playing more Striker, more Architect, and to be honest, on Sinatra's DPS roles, I think they're just higher skilled players, right? So I don't think San Francisco Shock fans, even though they're going to be pretty upset about it, I don't think they should really panic too much. I've kind of always thought that teams that get themselves into the weeds of that, my DPS player is my in-game leader and I can't pull him out, are kind of disadvantaged, right? Unless that person was like Rascal and was that flexible, then so maybe we see an immediate downturn from the San Francisco Shock and then they get right back to it and just keep rolling, I think, is honestly probably what I'm expecting for this team. So maybe the timing of it all is really the worst aspect of things going into this tournament that's going to add 3 arbitrary wins to somebody's record here, or 2 or 1. You know, if they take an early L there and get knocked out of that tournament, and that couldn't really affect their standings, their place in the standings. But this isn't a move that I think makes them not a playoff team anymore. This isn't a move that I think leaves them with some major hole in their roster that can't be filled by other players that are currently there. So for the Shock themselves, I don't really see it as a big deal. The big deal for me is a league image problem now. And I guess that's where I want to ask you, Blevins, is what do you think this does? I mean, it raised a lot of eyebrows and it brought a lot of kind of negative outlook looking at Overwatch League when it happened. Do you share much of that concern? Or
I think much like some of the other things we've seen. I mean, when the initial, like the whole casters thing at the beginning, Monty, Doa leave, was it overall, like, do I think that the league product itself is worse because of that? Not really. I think that Brennan Sideshow actually came out as a really, really good casting pair. You know, Jaws, like all the casters that we have now, I think are excellent. And I don't think that I mean, there's preferences certainly that people have, but I don't think it's a worse product overall. So,
did you hear Brennan's Sideshow this weekend?
No.
they're just goofballs. They had a moment where they went deep into the weeds, but it was very funny. I'm just picking on that.
I love
basically.
it. But the thing is the looking at it, however many months we're in now. I've lost all concept of time with the pandemic, by the way. But we're months after. Is the league product specifically when it comes to casting worse? I would say no. Did it have a positive image for the league when that happened, though? I would also say no. The, marquee, however you want to put it, whatever opinions you have of Monty and or Doa, they were marquee casters in the esports scene, and they left a league, and at least Monty was rather vocal about some of the things on the inside. That is not a good look. Did it end up being a bad thing for the league? I don't think so. And in a similar way, is Sinatraa in 6 months? Do I think that the league itself and how the games are played and that ecosystem of that is going to be worse off because Sinatra's not there? I don't think so. I don't think so. But is it a good look for the league right now that one of their most, the previous league season's MVP, one of the poster boys of the league, ambassador, etc., on Jimmy Fallon, all that stuff that I joked about earlier? Is it a good look for the league that he left for another game? No. Do I think it's going to negatively impact the league specifically because of that and that he left? I also don't think so.
Yeah, there's a very one-for-one analogy to be made here to something that happened in traditional sports this year. Going into this NFL season, the quarterback for the Indianapolis Colts, whose name was Andrew Luck, retired seemingly out of nowhere right before the season started.
Yeah.
This is a retirement seemingly out of nowhere shortly after the league started.
Right.
Very, very similar. And as a result of that, there was a lot of conversation about, would we see more players retire due to their health? And we did.
Yeah.
A couple other people did. Some defensive players, no other quarterbacks or anything, but it happened. You know what else happened, Blevins?
What's that?
All the teams played 16 games, and then they did a playoff, and then a Super Bowl, and they crowned a champion, and they crowned an MVP.
Yeah.
And the story of Patrick Mahomes is all anybody wants to talk about. And Vincent, Jackson from Baltimore.
Mm-hmm.
My head trying to get my head into football mode when I'm here in Overwatch mode is sometimes. But the league just moved on, right? The stars are there, and they're stars, and fans like them, and you don't want to see them leave, no matter what the reason is.
Yeah.
But they're going to anyways, right? Like, they're all going to leave at some point, and no league has ever died because one player has left. And we said that about casters. No league's ever died because a commentator decided to go to a different sport or a different game. In those areas, it's just something that's expected to happen. In this case, like I said, I just think it was a terrible career move from Sinatra's end. Again, I don't know what his contract was for San Francisco.
Right.
We had the rumor, the 150K or whatever.
Right.
I don't know what his contract is like in Valorant. But Valorant's held 0 esports tournaments so far. Just like show matchy stuff where developers are playing in it and things like that. And there's tournaments, but there's no esports scene in Valorant. And so what did he jump to? It's just crazy to me. Like, if you wanted to do it, the thing to do is to half-ass it a little bit on San Francisco and just kind of go through the motions some and grind that game out like he was doing. And then just kind of keep going. And then once it's established, maybe, or when your contract runs out there, right? Like, don't leave money on the table, or because he's still limited, right? Like, he can't sign with any organization for any game that's owned and operated by an Overwatch League competitor.
Right.
So, he played for San Francisco's NRG.
Yeah.
He couldn't go sign for Cloud9. They own London, so you can't just go play for them. So his options are limited, and that really, now he's playing for Sentinels, which they were like an Overwatch tier 2 organization at some point, and I'm not even sure if they still are at the moment. I think so, but
I don't remember.
Yeah, and so it's just weird, and I can't imagine that organization was able to put up the same amount of money that NRG was willing to do when they were trying to find their flagship player in their organization that they were starting like a whole brand around. And that's exactly what he was, even though he was underage and ineligible when they did it. He was the one on the announcement video. We're stacked, we're nutty, let's go, right? Like that was Sinatra, and he couldn't even play for half of a year.
Right.
So I can't imagine he's making more money. And I don't know if he is, then I guess I'll shut up, because it's just a financial decision at that point. Right. And if you can very easily sit down and look at it that way. But man, it's really crazy. Just thinking about it in general, that like, he would make that move. And I guess at the end of the day, listen, like if my job was miserable and I hated it, and I was making 10 times what I make now, would it matter to me? I don't know. But you played a video game, bro. Like, even if there's a newer, shinier game that you kind of want to play, I don't like understand or really put much respect behind the opinion that like it's like torture having to play Overwatch for 8 hours a day. Like I'm go sit in a cubicle. Yeah. Like I say it every time one of these guys retires. Go sit in a cubicle for 9 hours, okay? And tell me that playing Overwatch is that bad, because it's just not. And the alternative, right? But he doesn't have to go sit in a cubicle. He still gets to play video games for however many hours a day he wants. So at the end of the day, he doesn't have to give a rat's ass what my opinion is. Right. Just because I think it's a mistake, it clearly doesn't matter. But I have a podcast where I kind of have to give my opinion and give some commentary on it. Yeah. And I just can't look at this any other way. As like a kid made a poor career choice, and is probably going to fade away into obscurity as a result of it. Just watched him lose a Valorant match an hour ago. Yeah. So it is what it is. He's gone. It sucks. The league is going to move on and be fine. Yeah. It's not going to fail because Sinatra left, no matter what Monty tweets.
Yeah.
End scene.
I think that there's a couple of problems with how, I guess, esports in general and like the news cycle of esports compared to traditional sports, because no one is, or maybe a very fringe minority, if even at all, is like, oh, so-and-so player retired. Well, NFL's gone. Pack it up. No one's saying that. That's not going to happen. I don't think anyone thinks that any traditional sport, no reasonable person thinks that a traditional sport is going to end because one player retired. But people legitimately think that about Overwatch League and other esports, because they think that one player dictates the whole thing. I just got to say, as someone who is a NYXL fan / Toronto fan, I know that you know, Death, you're not rooting for San Francisco. I don't care what San Francisco does. I don't care that a poster boy for the league is gone. From me as a fan, taking away the I don't care that he left.
If anything, as somebody with San Francisco on their schedule the week it happened,
right,
I was like, oh, maybe.
Yeah,
it didn't work out that way.
No, but
maybe.
Yeah,
you know, they still have it. But that goes to my point, right? They just subbed him out and stomped and rolled through their schedule.
Yeah. Here's the thing, like, if LeBron James retired, which, I mean, he's, or someone younger, if you know, if if LeBron James retired 5 years ago or whatever, there would be people that would be like, oh, this is the greatest tragedy that's ever happened to basketball, like blah, blah, blah. And then there's going to be a huge, actually, majority of people that are like, man, I'm glad that my team doesn't have to face LeBron anymore because he was dominating them in the playoffs, you know?
And like, all those people that said this is the biggest tragedy ever would have bought Steph Curry jerseys 2 years later.
Right. So. Exactly. So I think that there's just the problem is that there's just not enough stories, and there's not enough outlets, and there's not enough this, that, or the other to cover in Overwatch League. It's not like, and we've talked about it in the offseason, it's like there's just not like the whole buzz. Like the draft is a whole like event that takes up so much stuff for in traditional sports. It's just a huge event. People love it. All sorts of really great buzz and everything for it. That's not there. There's a lot of other things that aren't there. And you know, ESPN is a company that is successful and a successful product because there's so many different angles that you can take in sports and that are taken that aren't taken in Overwatch League or in esports in general. It's just not there. So when something like this, I mean, I'm sure the Andrew Luck story was pretty big for a news cycle a week. Maybe it was more than that. I don't.
It'll still come up, to be honest, randomly.
Sure.
Because there's
and
the
this
whole
will
like,
still
player
come up for a
safety push
long
and
time.
stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a different that doesn't really apply as much here. Maybe a little bit when if you draw it to burnout, but like this will come up for a long time too, maybe forever. But like, is it the doomsday sign and all this stuff? No. Is it a good? Is it a bad thing that the MVP from last year quit? Yes, but is it? And like he said, it's because of burnout. But is that entirely Overwatch or Overwatch League's fault? I don't think so. I think it's certainly. And the other thing, the other point I wanted to make because of that specific point is that people also think that there are two options: that the league is the greatest thing in the world, or the league dies. And
right.
And there's
that's ridiculous.
And also that if a player says something bad, then the league is automatically in the wrong, one, and two, the league won't do anything about it to change, and it's doomed forever, and we might as well just quit and go to something else.
Yeah.
It's like people can change, right? Like the league can do things to improve. Maybe this is a, from the league, if I'm on the league operations or the PR team or anything like that, I'm personally maybe shaking a little bit or thinking about what we can do to make a better look, because it is not a good look. Maybe this puts a little bit of pep in the, or a little bit of fire under them to do something, to address the burnout.
It can be a wake up call. It can force some changes. To me, and this hasn't moved. This has been my stance when Monty and Doa left, when the cast is everything. It's just the truth. The league is going to succeed or fail, and it's very in flux and very in the air what's going to happen over the next, I'd say, 3 years is our window, right?
Yeah.
And then that factor that's going to determine whether or not the league succeeds is how popular and how good Overwatch is to play.
Yeah.
That's it. Esports succeed because they get a lot of players to play them, and at least for some amount of time, be important to them. And then that opens up the esport forever for people to want to poke their head in every now and then. It's the grand finals.
Yeah.
I got to watch that every year for Overwatch League or whatever. I haven't played it in 5 years, but I get the game enough. It's nice to check in, whatever. That's, to me, why CSGO is as big as it is.
Yeah.
That, to me, is why League of Legends esports is as big as it is. Because I haven't played League of Legends in got to be getting closer to 15 years than 10, though. I keep saying 10 years every time we have this conversation.
League of Legends is just hit 10 years old, so it's probably not more than that.
20 years ago, I used to play League of Legends, okay?
150 years ago, I played with Abraham Lincoln. We used to do ARAMs.
You get all right, so maybe I was more accurate before when I was saying 10 years. But it was 10 years ago I played League of Legends. I can still watch an esports match of League of Legends and understand what's going on and know,
at a macro
they're
level,
going for Baron, they're going for one of the neutral buffs. Oh, they got ganked in the jungle. Like I still know what all that means, right? And so I don't have to know the names of every single hero ability. I don't need that. And that's what Overwatch needs. It just needs, to me, Overwatch 2 to give it a shot in the arm, to bring people back, to make people excited about it. The people that loved this game, even the public detractors, I'm thinking like, Slasher has no problem taking a shot at Overwatch or Overwatch League. They deserve it. Okay. He still, when they come out with something that seems like it's the right move or the right decision, he still goes, he still believes in the game. He still believes in the product. And that's because at some point in his life, it meant a lot to him, and he really, really loved it, and he really enjoyed it, and he committed his time to it. They don't need to fix it to get Slasher to view in, or Blevins, you don't play anymore,
right?
But you still watch the East. They don't need to get you back to play again. You can always and forever watch Overwatch League and enjoy it, because at one point it was that for you. And that's what the game needs. When people quit and stop playing the game, yes, they might spurn Overwatch League for 2 years, right? Like I heard Siegel talking on stream. Guys, I don't watch Overwatch League. Why are you asking me questions about it? Like, go talk to somebody that has any idea what you're talking about, right? he left, and now he's distancing himself from
Right.
it. I'll guarantee you in a couple of years he's passively interested
Right.
in what Overwatch is doing again, just because at some point it was, especially somebody like him, like it blew up his stream,
made his
it gave
career
him
in a lot of ways.
right. It's the cornerstone that his brand is based on. So like that's what's important in esports to me, right? And that's to me what's important about sports. You see regionally, soccer is so big in Europe. Why? Because they grow up playing it.
Yep.
Because you just need a big field and one kid in your neighborhood to have a soccer ball, and you're good to go, and everybody can play it. In America, we don't watch much soccer. Why? Because when I'm 7 years old, I can sign up for a football team, and that's what we do here, right? That's what kids want to do here. And that's what parents are encouraging their kids to do. So it's just a cultural thing of like, this is the sport you played and were into at one point in your life, and now you can watch it and appreciate it forever. I don't think that's a mystery. Okay. I think that's a very well-known reason why I think sports leagues work and why the popularity of them. Canada loves hockey because they have youth programs that get their kids playing hockey as soon as they can stand up on skates. It works that way everywhere, and it works that way in esports too. A new product like Overwatch can't launch a league that's going to take down Counter-Strike in 2 years. That's not reasonable. Anybody that thought that was going to happen or thought that was remotely in the cards, I don't think was paying attention. So we can move on from here as far as I'm concerned, unless you have anything else to go on. But that's been our stance before. It's our stance now. And if anybody else decides to retire, copy paste this argument into that. I don't care who the name is, unless it's Linkser. Don't go Linkser. But you get my point. That's just me personally being a fan of one person, not actually an opinion.
Yeah, I think it very much like you hit the nail on the head. Like, you need to have that bond. You need to have the you need to have that connection to the game. Like, I will forever watch basketball, or be passively interested in basketball because I played it for so long. Same with Overwatch. Same with Magic the Gathering. Like, it doesn't matter if I'm playing it right now. I'm always gonna understand and appreciate that. And I mean, it's the reason why so many of these leagues and so many of these products go for younger kids. It's because you get them like playing and like building that emotional bond to something. So, I mean,
Overwatch League won't be the biggest esport in the world unless Overwatch 4 is super good. It's just not in the cards. And it's the same for Valorant. The only reason Valorant might have a better early game is because when you look at it or when you play it, Counter-Strike punches you in the face.
Right.
They so clearly stole everything about that game from Counter-Strike that it's insane. And that's the only reason why they might have like a faster start or something like that than a lot of other games. But there's no, like, a lot of people are still tying the success of Valorant to the death of Overwatch. Throw that idea out right away.
Yeah.
That's silly.
I also, like, the other thing is, like, people have an inherent amount of excitement in Valorant because of, like, the parallels. Like, you would imagine, LCS and, like, professional League of Legends is a successful product. It's still Riot. They can make a successful esports product. I'm excited about that. Because, like, that's a, LCS and all that is a big thing, and people are excited about that, and they want to see that for their, genre or whatever. So I could see that, but, like, that doesn't have anything to do with Overwatch, right? Like, that's so. All right, no need to belabor that point. I'm sure we'll be, the whispers of this will be
of the week.
Kellex is retired from Overwatch League, and you know what? It's not the same. Sorry, bud. It's not.
Yeah, no. Well, listen, we rooted for your team, both of us, and I can't shrug harder at this particular announcement.
The crowd
of all the roster spots
mild.
in the team, of all the roster spots in the team, this was the one I was the least excited about when it was announced. He's a perfectly fine Overwatch League main support.
Yeah.
He's also exceedingly replaceable. Yeah. And in the next bit of news, Cruz has been acquired by the Toronto Defiant from the Paris Eternal.
Yep.
And to me, This is an upgrade. I've been a Cruz fan since
You have been.
season 0.
Long time.
When we did our people got left out and who do you want to draft, mock draft. I took Cruz. I took Saya Player. I took a couple of these guys that are still banging around.
Yeah.
And yeah, Cruz has been my guy for a while. I'm super, super pumped to have him on Toronto. Can't wait for them to get him in and integrated. And in the meantime, if Roki needs to play more, I don't think it's I don't think it's a major drop off from what Kellex brought to the table. Though Kellex was solid, Roki's a little bit more mistakes, maybe a little more pop off stuff like that. But let's just get Cruz in here. Let's get him rolling and get him integrated. And I think Toronto will maybe not be just fine, but at least no worse for the change.
Right. Yeah. Let's get cruising along. Another couple of pieces of news that we'll run through here. Jiao and Paijan, who is the head coach, have parted ways with the Vancouver Titans. We'll put a pin in the whole Vancouver Titans thing, at least for this week, because I'm sure there's going to be a bigger story in the coming weeks that we'll dive a little bit deeper into.
Not in the coming weeks, in the coming hours, days, minutes. This is ripe to burst at any moment.
Well, we'll be covering it in the coming weeks.
Yes. We can't cover it leading up to their matches this week. But let's be perfectly honest about the situation with the Vancouver Titans. They do not currently have an Overwatch team. We have to assume that. Personally, I think Ryu Jae Hong and I think Fissure don't go anywhere. Fissure probably can't. If Fissure leaves another team, he might never get signed again.
No one's picking him up.
So he's just going to sit there and go through what he needs to if he wants to stay in Overwatch League. If he doesn't, maybe he uses this as just, okay, enough's enough. No matter what I do, either the team's going to bench me for somebody worse or completely, if that's his decision, fine. I personally don't think that's the case. And Jae Hong probably got elevated to starter and is a perfectly viable starter and like just got there. So I'm guessing the two new arrivals don't have like long-standing frustrations from last year that maybe push them to want to make a stand or whatever is going on in Vancouver. We don't know. What we do know is in the span of like 3 weeks, they went from living in like the team facilities in Vancouver to back to Korea, to being told they have to come back to Vancouver to go back to those team facilities again in the midst of a pandemic when they're playing from home anyways, right? And like, so something happened. There's massive disconnect between team ownership, there's massive disconnect between the team ownership and seemingly the rest of the team ownership and like their fan base. And I really can't say enough about how poorly it seems like the organization of the Vancouver Titans is handling the whole ordeal. It's painfully obvious they don't have a team right now. Okay. But we only know that their head coach and their off tank are gone. Yeah. So it's an absolute mess. Oh, by the way, on Saturday, this team has to play a match against the Washington Justice, and they have to start their seedings to get ready for the May tournament that's coming up. And we don't know what's going to happen. There was a rumor earlier that they were just going to sign a full NA squad. That person said, if I've got this one wrong, I'll never report on Overwatch again. An hour later, he put out a tweet saying he was wrong and he was never gonna comment on Overwatch again. So Halo thoughts, our latest leak boy, F's in the chat, might be gone. But yeah, that was almost as weird as the entire Vancouver Titans incident to me. But that's basically to me what's going to happen is they're going to grab an NA contenders team, probably full port, just grab all of them.
You might as well
drop them down.
They did it because they did it before, right? Runaway
with Korean, but they have to, and now they're on the bracket for NA, which means they have to be playing on NA servers this weekend. So that rules out Korean teams to me. Also, they just alienated themselves from one of the most popular group of Korean players that is going to talk to the entire rest of the Korean player base and probably tell them, hey, you should just stay away from Vancouver. It's not worth it. Easy to say when you're in the league and
easy to say when you've already gotten that.
Right. And so maybe it's not a problem. Wouldn't be surprised at all if they have no issues signing Korean talent in the future, but at least the immediate problem of this season feels like it has to be solved from North America, because it's the only way you're going to get them on acceptable ping to compete for you
right
as soon as Saturday. So expect every single player that's on the Vancouver Titans to leave until you hear otherwise, and really don't hold out any hope for any of them that aren't Jae Hong or Fisher. Those are the only two where I can realistically see them just staying put.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're absolutely in turmoil right now. Our hearts go out to you, Vancouver fans. Can't be easy because you fell in love with a particular roster.
right
You get so close to winning a championship with a particular roster,
yep
and then it's just
blowing
up in your face
right away from you.
It's not even happening on stage. It's one thing to like watch it happen and see that the players are worse. It's another thing for it to happen when they're you already don't get to watch them, and it's just it's a brutal time. And yeah, we certainly feel bad to you guys.
Yeah.
Just send a I don't know, an F on Twitter to @ReadySetPwn.
Yeah.
Our buddies over there that do the Vancouver podcast are having a rough go.
F's in chat for them.
Yeah, we love you guys. Anything you need from us, let us know in these trying times.
Yeah, unless it's a playable Overwatch League team, because we don't have that for you.
I'm almost back to Masters.
Yeah. But you have retired from competitive Overwatch and are now pursuing a career in Valorant. So unfortunate.
False.
But
almost exactly the opposite, as a matter of fact.
Yeah. Yeah, but that's the joke, Death. Again, I'm sure we're gonna have more to actually report on in I would say probably. Well, I mean, we're gonna have something to talk about next week, whether it's nothing has changed or something drastically has changed.
Either we'll be talking about how crazy it is they forfeited 2 games this weekend, or we'll be giving you a new roster lineup for them next Monday.
Exactly. Okay, last piece of news here. Paris Eternal have signed... Did it? Oh, we're 2 away. Oh, yes. Paris Eternal have signed Fielder Flex Support, known as the Flex Support for GC Busan Wave. I know nothing of this player.
This madman played this weekend for the Paris Eternal on 200 ping against the Philadelphia Fusion and popped off. I don't need to know anything else. 200 ping, blew up. The man looked great. You'll love to see it when a signing comes in like this. So fast, and before you can even process.
It's just I'm 37 all over again. I
need to watch some tape. This is I'm 37. But backing it up here, and also
maybe it's I'm 73.
Didn't speed run through contenders. Actually, cut his teeth and earned his spot. But yeah, it looked great. And this is, again, we talked about hip retired. They were going to be forced to play with Gray, who's almost as uninspiring of a player to me as hip. Not bad, but just like kind of meh. And losing Xe, they need more playmakers again. And I just want this guy to succeed, because can it just be true that everything Paris touches turns to gold? I would just love that if that was like, I like to make fun of Paris solely because they're French, but I have no problems with them whatsoever. Even the French people, like, it's just, I like to pick on Canadians too. I don't know. It's just, if you speak any French whatsoever, I don't know, I kind of just want to poke you with a stick a little bit, but there's no hate to it. So I love
we're canceled, folks.
No, I'm literally not even saying anything bad. It's most of our listen, if any French people want to stop listening to our podcast, feel free. I don't care. But
yikers.
I don't think there's that many to begin with. I think our demographic skews largely American, and I'm guessing they like it when I make fun of the French. So I'm not going to back off of it. I just like to like I said, I like to poke them with a stick. I have no problems with the Paris Eternal as a team or an organization, and I think it's great that they can just sign. They sign Eggsy and Sparkle, and everybody's looking at Sparkle, and when he becomes eligible, and then Eggsy just pops off, and then they have a retirement, and that really sucks for them. How are they going to do? Oh, we'll just sign Fielder and play him from Korea, and he's never met or anybody or anything, and just pops off, and it's great.
It just destroys.
Like, that is
they told
phenomenal.
him it was solo queue.
I love it. I love it. So props to him. Can't wait to see it. Him on LAN might be terrifying. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Curious to see if they can get his ping under control a little bit. But right now, obviously having a bit of a tough time. making the most of it anyways.
Yeah.
Didn't complete the reverse sweep of the Philly Fusion, but more on that in a minute, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just redo the score. Spoiler alerts.
Yes, we will. But last piece of news here is that we got more changes to the hero pools, and this ties into the point I was making earlier, where everyone's like, "Oh, well, if there's something bad with the league, it's permanently bad and it can never be changed, and they don't listen and nothing can change and it's awful. Let's jump ship." It's like, well, looks like they're incrementally making reasonable changes to hero pools and how they work, and it's based off of the feedback that they're hearing.
Okay, but this one sucks. And here's why. I've been talking about, since they put hero pools in, how much more fun they made playing Overwatch to me. Okay, it's just been great. There's diversity, there's changes. If like, oh, I hate May, but we're just going to get these metas that allow you to play outside of that world. And like this past week, you've just been able to insta-lock Winston Diva comps and just run them through comp and win, and it's been great. Like, I've loved it. And now they're gone because hero pools don't affect lower, like most people playing the game. I think it's like either Masters Up or GM and top 500 only is affected by hero pools. And to me, that's just making the game less fun to please shitty one-trick players that shouldn't be in the damn game to begin with, and like ruin the experience anyways. I'm sorry, I don't care if you're a Mercy one-trick and you quit for a week because Mercy's banned. Good, get out. Like, it doesn't bother me. I want the game to be as fun as possible for as many people as possible. And worrying about every single one-trick in the world when you put out a game that's about hero swaps, to me, is annoying. So I'm a little frustrated from this from a I play it standpoint. That said, from an Overwatch League standpoint, we're going back to the hero pools are dictated by what's happening in Overwatch League. And that, I think, is good. I would just prefer a hero pools to remain in for everybody based off of Overwatch League. Go back to what we were 2 changes ago.
I do have a fix, though.
What's that?
Just be top 500 forehead.
Just get better 5-head. Yes. And if it's Masters Up, I'm not far off. But also, I'm ineligible from playing in GM because I'm never 2-stacking Overwatch ever. If I get an account to GM, I have to switch to one of my alternate accounts because I will never play with less than 6 people and less than 4 or 5 people in Overwatch. Let's be real. Sometimes I play some games waiting for somebody else to get on or something like that to fill out my group. But if I don't think there's a decent chance I'm going to have a 6-stack, I'm not playing this game. It's been that way for me for a long time. Like literally season 4, I think, or something like that. Like, I used to play on teams. I didn't grind and ranked on my own, even if I needed to for the team environment. I would just get friends and do it there. The game was, and listen, it's something we've seen playing Valorant. It's why I've enjoyed it more than I thought, right? Because in shooters, if you just get a full squad together and everybody gets in there and tries, even if the skill isn't great or you guys are losing, like, it's just way more fun and way more enjoyable. That's the only way I play either any shooter game whatsoever is with a full group going into it. So to me, this just like locks me out of one of the most positive changes the game has made in a long time, which is frustrating. But when they announced hero pools, I said, if you're doing the balance changes, I'm good. I don't even need the hero pools as long as you follow through on the balance changes. So now the pressure's on. I called them out a little bit ago. I was like, it's about that time. If you're telling me I'm getting them regularly, it's about that time. They just about immediately put them out after I made that comment, like maybe before the episode aired. But after I said it, they announced a PTR balance patch. So I don't know. The pressure's on there. I want May out of this game. If it's not going to be arbitrarily taken out by hero pools, I want May out. I want diversity. I want things to change. I don't want to be stuck playing Reinhardt or stuck playing Winston only forever as a main tank player. Okay. I definitely don't want to be stuck playing Orisa for even 5 minutes of time. I've maxed out on what I'm willing to do on Orisa for an extended period of time. And again, like I said, I believe the success and failure of the league hinges on the success and failure of the game. And so that makes me a little more nervous because it was tangible how much more fun Overwatch was, even in a 6-stack environment when things forced changes. And yeah, sure, all the hero pools weren't great. We didn't play much when the Anna Moira ban week was there. But again, I didn't go on a tirade because I didn't like the hero pool. I just didn't play that much that week, you know, and went on with it. So yeah, that's what we're from two different perspectives. It's very different to me. I think the changes are positive for Overwatch League straight out of the gate. Like, go hit the ground running, bans based off what you're doing, not what heroes are fun to play and competitive. That's not a factor or anything like that. So, but yeah, I don't know. I'm a little nervous. Just make sure I'm getting those balance changes, and we're still cool, Blizz.
Yeah, I think that you brought up some good points in that, like, it does. I get it conceptually that, like, there's a pretty clear delineation between grandmasters or whatever it is and, like, the ranks below it, and like those, you know, that high level of play is almost like, I don't know, tier 4 or tier 5 Overwatch, right? Like that, like a lot of the top tier players are playing in those and they play competitively. So, like, have that tied to Overwatch League. And then the other stuff doesn't necessarily need to do plat games need to be influenced by Overwatch League? I'd probably not.
No, but where's all those people that cried because it didn't match my competitive experience? And like, now we're back to that.
Sure.
This was my point last week, was you have to stop trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
And you have to give us what you think is the best version of Overwatch, what you believe in, Blizzard, as the people that created it and are responsible for building it from here out. I want what you want. And if that's what this is, great, kudos. But it's hard to see the difference when every week we've been announcing the slight change to hero pools, and there's another one. But what I will say is general consensus seems to be more positive this time than it's been in the past. So I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. At the end of the day, if I can get my six guys together and we can log in and play some Overwatch, I'm going to have fun with it, and I'm going to keep doing it because I just really, really enjoy this game. And that's what matters to me in it the most. But yeah, I don't know. It's just back and forth. Like I said, Blizzard, give me the product you want people to be playing, not what you think we want to play.
Right.
Because I don't think you succeed trying to please everybody. I think you succeed by putting out the best game you can make. And if people like it, great. Like, I think that's, to me, the path. But
I think that's the general wisdom of creation. But we'll see. But we are very top heavy on this episode, so we will be moving through. Yeah, it was gonna happen, but I'm not upset about it. But we do need to move through some of these results and predictions. So let's move on, and
it's tournament talk.
Okay, so matches from this past week. We had the Guangzhou Charge winning 3-0 versus the Seoul Dynasty.
Oof.
Yikes. Speaking of yikes, we had Shanghai Dragons beat NYXL 3-2. Boo, Shanghai, boo.
I'm sweeping, but backwards. Like, normally I'd sweep this way.
Yeah, you're sweeping piles of dirt outside and spreading them out.
Boo. Reverse sweeping.
Yes. Dallas Fuel win 3-0 versus the Washington Justice. LA Valiant winning 3-2 over the Atlanta Reign. Yeah, there.
Sweeping in reverse again. There we go. Okay.
San Francisco Shock winning 3-0 versus the Houston Outlaws. Nothing? No? Okay.
Predicted it.
I know. Hangzhou Spark winning 3-0 versus the Seoul Dynasty.
Ooh.
Sell. NYXL winning 3-1 versus the Chengdu Hunters. Philadelphia Fusion winning 3-0 versus the Paris Eternal. Almost reversed.
I started to reverse sweep,
and then stopped. And then dropped the
stopped.
Yep,
and then I stopped. Broke the
Florida Mayhem winning 3-0 versus the Boston Uprising. And Los Angeles Gladiators winning 3-1 versus the Toronto Defiant. So,
bastards.
A lot of stuff to talk about here. Maybe one match, Death, that sticks out, or a result for you that is worth noting, or should we move on to break it down?
Let's just go. With given time, let's go to break it down. We got a couple things to talk about in there too from last week. So,
let's break it down.
Okay, so regardless of specific matches that happened, a big thing was Echo being released into the Overwatch League
Yes.
and making an impact. Death, what are your initial Echo impressions?
Awesome. Love it. It's so much fun to play, to watch, to everything. I love Echo as a hero. It's funny, I heard a lot. I was watching a little bit of like Plat Chat stuff on YouTube and a little just other contents. I don't want to start naming too many individual shows and then leave out a friend or something, but there was very iffy, like, oh, is she going to make that big of an impact? Our team's just going to pick her up. And I'm like, have you played? The whole time I'm listening to everything, I'm like, have you played it? Have you tried it? Have you been in a game where there's been no hit scan that's just taken your head off, where you're just able to go nuts? Because it's insane. Like, it's me. I'm terrible on DPS, and I'm still like flying behind teams, copying Reinhardt's, starting my pin in mid-air, and then sweeping their Reinhardt from behind, hitting the pin, pulling him into my team where we just murder him. Oh, and then I turn around and earth shatter their whole squad because we just took out their shield. Like, it's so good and so much fun. It was massively overtuned when they originally like put it on PTR, and then it got scaled back a bit. And now I think it looks so overtuned this weekend because those hit scans were gone. Overwatch League hit scan gods are going to click echoes out of the sky. It's going to happen. And that's going to do a really good job balancing the hero a bit. So I'm really interested looking at that this weekend, but I loved this weekend. It was everything I hoped for. It was like just lock, dive, and go. There was a couple exceptions, but outside of a few maps, and really it's those maps where like you'd never consider Pharah, even in the most Pharah dominant meta, where you're like locked indoors and you can't fly that far away to where even like a tracer can shoot you out of the sky, sort of a thing. That's where you didn't see her. Even the teams that wanted to play outside of dive and play something bunkery still played an Echo. Okay, because she was that good. And I talked about this last week. New heroes, especially ones that look and feel as powerful as that, change the meta. They change the game. Brig broke Overwatch for a while, right? Like, it just goats for a year. Go. We can't balance it because this new hero gave such unintended consequences and changes, and I really think there's a decent chance Echo's going to do that in like a saving way instead of a breaking way, right? It's going to save Overwatch and dive comp and like bring us back into that a little bit. And that's going to be a big test this weekend, but more on that in a minute. Yeah. What did you think of Echo, just watching it, the whole experience, the beautiful chaos of the ultimate, everything?
Yeah. It's just like, it's a breath of fresh air in a lot of ways. It's like, there's so many new and different things that can happen. Like you said, even the what you said in your game, it being able to like fly around the back, copy a Reinhardt, dive in, like kill their Reinhardt, pick it off. It's like, we didn't see that before. Like, yes, there were some really cool plays. I mean, one of the plays from last season that comes to mind is the Defiant like grab jump with Zarya. Was really cool. And like, those are the types of things that like, it takes a high skilled player to do it, and it's like, it's not like that's a regular set play that we see every time. It's like, oh well, they're doing the
high skilled
jump.
Players and a beautiful mind behind the scenes, right? Like figuring it out and making it work,
right, and then executing
it for it, seeing the opportunity, right? All those things,
so many things. And like, Echo, I think, opens up a lot of that, and like, we're just seeing the beginning, Death. Like, wait till these DPS gods actually get their hands on it and like experiment.
It's laughable how bad everyone was at using Brig when she first came out, but it's still like people suddenly couldn't beat Dallas because Mickey was the best Brig player in the league for a couple weeks, and it just I want that. That was great. What I don't want is the year of terrible metas to follow.
Right.
But a year of dive after a year of goats and double shield would be a breath of fresh air. So maybe it's not the end of the world in this instance, but and hero pools in the league will fix the stale problem of that and all those things. So I was super pumped about Echo. Everything about her is great. Her kit feels very fluid. It feels like there's some instruments that feel like you're playing the drums right? Like it's Reinhardt Winston come to mind.
Right.
You're like Soldier 76. You're just like, this is what I do when I'm doing it. And then there's other ones where you feel like you're conducting an orchestra and you're playing a string instrument or something, and it's much more artistic and fluid, and Echo feels like that in the DPS category.
I think you can actually keep the drums analogy going, where it's like, if you don't know how to play drums, you're just like, I'm just bashing things and stuff. But it's like, if you know how to play drums and you see someone, like my brother is very musically gifted and can play drums. I can't play a recorder with 5 hours of practice. I can't do that. I have no musical talent. I'm exaggerating. I can probably play Hot Cross Buns. Although I play Three Blind Mice. I don't play Hot Cross Buns. Okay. It's the same song. There's an 8th grade music reference for everyone out there. But when I like see my brother playing drums, like it's like it's not just banging on the drums, right? It can look and kind of sound like that, but when you really focus on it, it's like, oh, there's like desyncing going on and like the foot pedal movements and like getting the cymbal. Like I can't do that. My brain doesn't work like that. Maybe if I was taught and did a lot of training, I could get to like some of that. His brain just works in a different way than mine does. And like seeing that happen and like getting that practice is an insanely beautiful thing to watch. Like it's crazy. So it's like, yes, maybe some of it is just banging on the drums and like, yep, I'm gonna swing my Reinhardt hammer around. But then it's like, well, what if you're getting to a point and you're fighting with Echo and then you copy a McCree and you shoot someone out of the air and you high noon real quick like that, like those sort, and like seeing ahead, it's like, okay, I need to hit 3 headshots here. I don't know what the actual numbers are. I need to hit 3 headshots here, kill someone, and then ult, and I'll have just enough time to pick off the other 2 people because I killed their shield from behind with McCree. Like those sorts of things. That's kind of crazy and like beautiful, elegant sort of thing. I don't know. I think it can be really cool.
Yeah, it was a great debut weekend. I love that the hero pools worked out to give her the room that she needed to really be showcased. And then now we'll see those DPS thrown back in, and it'll be much different. We'll have to see how it shakes up with the, all those tools available, things like that. But yeah, a great way to debut and unleash a character onto the league. I thought it was great.
Yep. Okay, Death. The other question here is, we've seen multiple weeks of the Asia teams meta happen, and this week sort of solidified it. I mean, we saw Shanghai winning a lot of matches, but they got their real test here against NYXL, and they pulled it out and won. Philly also has been on quite a bit of a run lately. So the question is, can anyone actually contest Philly or Shanghai for these tournaments?
No. Moving on. Okay.
Hero pools
Shanghai,
for next.
Yes. New York just lost to them 3-2.
Yeah,
it's not
very
like they
close.
can't compete with them. It really, I think, is going to become meta dependent and maybe roster dependent with New York, where Shanghai has not shown a weakness or an ability to kind of get that wrong. But again, with New York, I never thought it was a weakness or we're getting it wrong. I thought it was we have a new player and we're trying to get him acclimated and work with the team and get a feel for what he can do and what he plays best for us. And they tried him in a role and it didn't work that great, but so anyways, so I don't think it was like a major failure from New York. I thought it was just them getting a feel for their new roster, and I didn't really bash them for it too much. And I believe he was their Echo player for the weekend too. So who are you? That is. So yeah, very specifically, I think New York is not far behind Shanghai, although Shanghai certainly has the edge, and Seoul's dropped completely off the face of the earth as far as teams we think can compete at all in this bracket. Long term, I'm still not completely out on Seoul, but short term, they're a dumpster fire and have a lot to get figured out. So to me, it's a 2-man race in the Asian region between New York and Shanghai. And I very, very seriously look forward to that matchup, which feels very inevitable. Unless Chengdu meta just perfectly lines up and nobody can beat Wrecking Ball at the time of the tournament. We'll see when we get there. As far as the NA or the other half of the bracket, the American half of the bracket, Philly is the clear favorite, but it's hard not to look at Paris. I mean, Eggsy can theoretically come back at anytime.
Yeah.
They've already got one player playing from Korea. Can they just get two of them? We really don't know how they're going to handle that. But I think they're an exit away from being right there, absolutely at the top with everybody else again. San Francisco cannot be overlooked just because of a signing there.
Right.
And then Atlanta is a team with more than enough talent to take down anybody at any time. They're just very streaky. And right now don't look to be that great, so I wouldn't call shot them as being a team that's gonna make a splash, but you can't ever discount them either as a team with a very, very real opportunity to make some waves. So
guess what? Atlanta, they can win against anyone, they can lose against anyone, but that's not necessarily a bad thing for a tournament format. Like you just need to pop off in a tournament.
That's what we talked about them going into the year, where we had them so high in our power rankings but not because we thought they would be there in the standings at any point, right? I always thought this was a team that would lose to people they should beat people they should lose to, just be very streaky, very emotional. And so far they're living up to that without really having the outside of a couple of matches, but that's kind of the point, right? A couple matches where they looked unbeatable and did some crazy things. And they're hard to root for, I would imagine, at the moment, but I think they'll be just fine by the end of the year.
Yep. Okay, so we've got new hero pool for this week, of course, week 14. Ash Reaper banned for the DPS slots, and Reinhardt Brigitte banned for the tank and support spots, respectively. Death, what's the initial impression for this week's upcoming hero pool meta?
I don't think Ash is a super relevant ban when you're talking about Widow and McCree being back, although some teams did play her in favor of those two at times, but it was unsure whether or not that was like the Valiant flexing, because that's how the Valiant play, or whatever it was. Reaper out is a big deal. He pairs so well with Mei. That you get to play a whole different style of like brawly, almost goats-ish, like, oh, I started slowing you down and now we've got shooty shotguns and we're able to catch up with you and take you out. And that play style's gone, which is probably good because it's the one we're kind of bored of watching at the moment. But Mei is still there, and then you get McCree, so you can still kind of do that. It's just you're hitting headshots with McCree instead of body shots on Reaper. But Reinhardt is out, and that's usually featured heavily in those compositions. So you got to think we're looking at one of two possibilities here for me, which is very bunker-based compositions that play the Mei and the McCree. If that's good enough to take out an Echo out of the sky when it's being pocketed by Mercy, because Mercy's back now, who pairs great with Echo. So the counters were out, but the best support to go with the new hero was also out. So it's very, very up in the air to me. I really haven't done enough playing in these metas. Will be, yes, very literally in the air this weekend. So I'm pumped to find out which it's going to be. I think this is one of those weeks where you're going to see teams that want to play bunker commit to it and play a lot of, whether it's Sigma Orisa or Orisa Diva compositions. I think you're going to see a lot of those from teams that want to do that. And then you'll see a lot of teams playing dive that want to dive. Specifically Houston. They seem like a team that's not going to stop playing dive anytime soon, if it's at all possible. And with Reinhardt banned, you really have to think they're going to do that. So yeah, I expect, and these are the perfect fun metas to me, right? Because you get teams playing their styles, what they want to do, going against each other, and how is it going to work out from there. That's how you get fun upsets. That's how you get super close matches and everything like that. So I think this weekend is poised to be almost as fun as last weekend. It's hard to beat the debut of something like a character like Echo, but I think we should be seeing a lot. And with seedings for the tournament up for grabs, we'll see that those tournaments are, I mean, I used to bash the stage playoff ones because they were exhibitions and worthless and nobody cares. 3 wins is a lot. Way too much, in my opinion. And it's going to mean these teams do really, really care about that. And we might see them preparing exclusively without hero pools for a while and then just adapting in games in the moment, sort of a thing. So, I don't know. It's going to be crazy. and I'm excited for it. So
Yeah.
we'll see. It seems like a coin flip what the meta will be.
I'm excited to see the progression of Echo and how these players are getting better. What new wrinkles are we going to see? Or what new strategies are going to be defined as the meta of Echo specifically? I'm very excited to see that. But we will
ready to run through some predictions?
We're going to run through some predictions. We're very close on time here, so we will stop only on the biggest ones that we want to cover here. We'll start off Shanghai Dragons versus Seoul Dynasty. That's an easy Shanghai 3-0. They're top, but they're top billing right now. Seoul is still on fire. Anything else to add there, Dad?
No, Seoul's probably bottom of the bracket. They finally played an off-tank player for the first time in their second match. I thought everything was going to be saved. We actually put out the right lineup for a change.
Yeah.
First time in 3 years. And it's still lost, but I really hope they stick with it. That's all I have to say. Shanghai is going to win this season.
Yep. All right, next up is Chengdu versus Indeth. I didn't know that we were doing it this season, but we actually added another team to the Overwatch League. Welcome, the London Spitfire. Oh, wait, they've been a team the whole time. I looked back because I'm like, I literally forgot they existed. But I looked back, and the last time that we saw the London Spitfire play was back in the days of yore when we could be in the same building as other people.
Yes. What a weird time that was.
What a weird time. Have not seen them in a very, very long time. And given that, it's very hard for me to pick a London here. I'm gonna go with. I still think the weak Chengdu, but I'll give him a 3-1 here over London.
Yeah, breaks like that might be good for the mental game of a team. I'm not so sure they're good for keeping your mechanics sharp on your very first match back. I'm expecting an easy Chengdu win here. I'll give them 3-0.
Yep.
Also, London was exceedingly mediocre to me when they were playing.
I don't think that they are making huge improvements for sure. Next up, Guangzhou Charge versus NYXL. Of course, for me, easiest 5-0 of the season for NY.
Got to pick NY. I'm going to give them 3-1. Guangzhou can play happy if they want to, and I always want them to if they can. And then Nero's looked really good on the Echo to me. There's a definite shot here for Guangzhou, but it's nothing you're picking.
Yep. All right, Paris Eternal versus the LA Gladiators. Death, I know you've been big on Paris. Who are you picking?
I like what Paris is doing generally. I refuse to forget how bad they look when they're not allowed to play Reinhardt. I'm giving the Gladiators the 3-0 win here. They do not have an adequate Winston player.
Yeah, I mean, given that fact, I would tend to agree, but I'm going with the flip here. Give me Paris. I'll give them a 3-2. I mean, they put up such a big fight against Philly. Yes, it was a different hero pool. It's hard for me to make me think that there's going to be that big of a difference. It very well could be, but this is going to be a flip for me, and I definitely have the coin. Yes, I do. Okay, so we'll go tails for Paris. That's a heads. The coin agrees with Death. The LA Gladiators are going to win this one. Next up, we've got the Washington Justice versus the Vancouver Titans, a team that might not actually exist here. Who are you going with, Death?
I mean, how can you possibly pick Vancouver to win a match? That said, I'm taking Vancouver 3-0 because I am dead inside over how bad the Washington Justice make our boy Ark look. It's mind-boggling to me. Yeah. They just can't put it together. I will take a team that's been playing coordinatedly from contenders right now against Washington. It's the constant struggle bus. They just never seem to get it figured out. I don't understand it. There's no logic that makes this pick the correct move. Feel free to not pick it, everybody in your pick'ems.
Yeah.
But I'm just that upset at Washington that I would take a team that just imploded and moved across the world twice in 3 weeks and signed a new roster for this match. I'm picking them to win 3-0 over Washington.
Yeah. The only reason I'm picking Washington here, because I agree with most, if not everything that you said. The only reason I'm picking Washington here is because there is a reasonable chance that Vancouver DQs because they don't field the full team. So I'm taking that as an extra little bump to give Washington a chance. It breaks the tie for me. I'm not even giving the coin here because it's a technical disagreement here. No real disagreement here. Next up, We have Houston Outlaws versus Atlanta Reign. DB, who do you got?
Atlanta's low key the new soul right now. I saw Fred this weekend. I saw like there's just so much mixing and matching going on. Listen, you've got to pick Atlanta in this one. Right now, they're still a tier above Houston. I will be taking Atlanta. Atlanta likes to make things a lot harder for themselves or show up and dominate and play absolutely the best. I'm going to assume they're going to make it a little harder on themselves than it needs to be because that's what they've been doing. Go Atlanta 3-2. Super flippable to me. This one has upset potential written all over it, as all Atlanta Reign matches probably should.
I'm taking the flip solely because I will get to bask in the Houston victory alone.
You sure will.
I will bask alone. No, I will bask alone.
You can try to keep me out of the sunlight, Bevin, but I'm too big. The sun finds me.
Never fails for Houston here. Ooh, and the coin agrees with me. So Death Blow is the only detractor.
Smart coin.
Only detractor of the Houston Outlaws here. Next up, we have the Boston Uprising versus another Overwatch League team, the name of which doesn't matter. So I'm picking that team. It's the LA Valiant here.
It's 3-0 against the Boston Uprising every time. Listen, I literally, we're going to read the matchup so that you know going forward. I'm not even going to begin to analyze or discuss the Boston Uprising anymore. If they don't take Overwatch League seriously, I'm not taking them seriously. At this point, as a fan of the league, as a fan of the game, I'm insulted by how they treat the league and how they treat their team and their fan base, and I don't want to give them any airtime whatsoever because it just infuriates me. That's on top of my normal hatred for them. This is just literally additionally being added onto it. I'm so sick of them and exactly what they stand for, which is just losing and making money off of us, and go to hell, Robert Kraft. End of story.
So business as usual. Actually literally getting the rules changed for no reason. Well, maybe we'll dive into that if anything ever comes up of it, which probably won't. Moving on to Sunday, we've got Hangzhou Spark versus Shanghai Dragons. Pretty easy Shanghai 3-0 here. They're just on top of the world in that division right now.
Yeah, Hangzhou's lost to just about everybody that's not the Seoul Dynasty recently. So Shanghai 3-0.
We've got London Spitfire, again, brand new team to the league, versus the Guangzhou Charge. And again, very hard for me to pick a team that I haven't seen since we were able to go outside and was mediocre back then. I'll give Guangzhou here a 3-0.
I'm gonna go 3-1. London does have some pieces. There's Glister's looked pretty strong. Bernard, I'm curious if they get back to using him. I thought he was the better of their off-tank choices. But yeah, if Glister can play McCree, that should be good for him, Matt.
Yep. All right. Toronto Defiant versus the San Francisco Shock. And I want to believe
how about the Dallas Fuel versus the Philadelphia Fusion?
Nope, not talking about that match because I didn't read it because I can't read. Dallas Fuel versus Philly Fusion here. Got to be a Philly win here. I'll go 3-1.
There's a chance. Reinhardt's banned, and that means Sato can't play it, and that means he's fallible. But I'm not picking against Philly. Not in favor of Dallas. If it was a slightly better team, I might look more seriously at an upset. But 3-1 Philly for me.
Next up, the actual next match here is Toronto Defiant versus San Francisco Shock. And like I was saying before, I want to believe, but I don't have a big enough imagination here to pick Toronto. I'll give them one map. But
yeah, Reinhardt's out, so we're talking about Smurf, not Super, at the main tank spot. But we're still probably looking at Rascal on the Echo, and it's going to take a month or two before anybody passes him on a new hero. I think this forever that'll be the case.
Yep.
Yeah, you've got to pick San Fran.
Yep.
Real.
And the last match here, Florida Mayhem versus the Vancouver Titans. Death, who do you have?
I'm going to go with Florida 3-0. Who knows? They don't have a team. How can I possibly pick a score when only one team exists?
Yeah, I'm going with Florida for the same exact reason as I went with Washington before. There is a non-zero chance that the Vancouver Titans forfeit 2 matches this week.
Yeah, and listen, I'm not jumping up and down and talking about how good Florida is because they've played against nothing but the Boston Uprising for a couple weeks, and it's really easy to look good in those circumstances. But they do look a little better.
Yeah.
At least. I mean, they look much better, but factoring in Boston,
right,
probably a little better.
Yeah, it's tough to tell, but that is going to be it for the show. Thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. Again, special thanks to Bungee Bamboo, our executive producer level patron, as well as all of our other Patreon supporters. You can head over to patreon.com/highnoonpodcast to support the show. Don't forget to join the Discord community as well. Lots of discussion going on, especially with all this news coming out. We still have all of our folks. Monkey Prince still getting in every single bit of news out as soon as possible on the Discord. Again, discord.me/highnoonpodcast. That is the place to go. Death, any last minute stuff before we head out here?
No, that's it. Root for more Dive this weekend. If Dive's played this weekend, it might be full on Dive for a while.
Nice.
So root for Dive.
We want Dive to be alive. But that is going to be it. Thank you again, everyone, for supporting us. And yeah, it's just been really great covering Overwatch League for the past, I don't know how many years we're doing it. We've been doing it past a million years. Time doesn't exist anymore. But that's going to be it for this episode. For Deathblow, I'm the Blevins. And guys, remember, it's high noon.
Got his boots and he put on his hat. He threw the coin away that same day. It's in his past and he's not looking back. He says, finding mine now, God's my way. He's not good, but he sure ain't bad. He'll make amends for the sins that he has. He says, I'll change the world one bullet at a time till I find mine.
All right, guys, in Discord, do @KyleWin and type out Valorant just to show your support for Sinatra. Just do that to support the homie Sinatra. Thank you.